everyone, I'm Danielle Robson and I run Soda Arts, a curatorial consultancy in Sydney. Thank you so much for joining me today for an art break. I'd like to start by acknowledging that I am making this call on the unceded lands of the Gadigal and Wangal peoples of the Eora Nation, and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging, and to acknowledge that our Indigenous artists are our first artists and makers. So today I am being joined by the wonderful Australian visual artist Lara Merrett. So please just bear with me while I bring her up. Hello. Welcome.
Thank you. So nice to be here having a chat with you.
Well, look, just to start off with, in case there are people who aren't familiar with your work, I will just do a very brief introduction to you. And you are a hard person to summarise into a few pithy sentences, but I'll do my best. So, Lara, you are an award-winning Australian visual artist. You work predominantly with paint, and you create these lusciously vivid, vibrant, beautiful, abstract works. And I think what's really interesting about your work is that, yes, you do create canvas-based works that can be hung on a wall, but in recent years and increasingly you've been doing these very large-scale installation paintings that have been known as drop sheet paintings. And I think what is fascinating about them is that this really challenges the idea of what painting is and shifts the audience member from someone who's standing in front of a work as a kind of passive observer, one step removed, to someone who can really be an active participant in the work. And you know, depending on the installations, I know that you've arranged audiences are able to wander through your work. They can physically move it and roll it. They can climb into it. They can even cut it, which is something that you and I are working a little bit on. But just in terms of some bio information, you're represented by Jan Murphy Gallery in Brisbane, and you have some works on show there at the moment as part of the Art Fair Sydney Contemporary. So anyone watching, if you would like to see some of Lara's works, you can just head to the Jan Murphy website. We are working together. I'm very excited to be working with you on a new commission for the exhibition Wonder and Dread, Art in the Land of Weather Extremes, which is opening at the Shoalhaven Regional Gallery on the 12th of December this year. Opening event TBC. But the show will definitely be open, and you know, everyone's allowed to attend. And the work that we're doing together is really interesting because it's a commission and specifically in response to the Black Summer bushfires that ripped through the Shoalhaven in the summer of 2019 and 20, where, as most people would know, 3/4 of the Shoalhaven was eviscerated. And that's actually a very personal, you have a bit of personal connection to there, in that you have a home there. And it was really after that event that you became quite involved with the community group that you can talk a bit about Manana Matters. And I know from our conversations that you've worked tirelessly and made some incredible things happen with the group that you're involved with to save a piece of unburnt bushland from development that I'm sure you can tell us a bit more about. But thank you so much for joining me today.
Danielle, thanks. Yeah, there's a lot in that intro. Where would you like me to start with? Yeah.
Well, where are you at the moment? Perhaps you can tell us where you are.
I'm in Sydney at the moment. I spend half my time here, and then also on the South Coast. So I have a studio in Stanmore on Parramatta Road, which is a complete opposite of the South Coast area that I also work in. Yeah, but I absolutely love it here. It's really noisy and has a lot of that light industrial, but very warehouse, like great sort of rough and ready space to kind of just get, you know, experiment with materials and have a lot of room to kind of play around. So yeah, that's
yes.
where I am. Yeah, with two other artists. So there's three of us in this space and we set it up together. Yeah.
Yes, and you told me that actually your studio roommates, you've actually been with them for how long, is it?
I think it's like 8 years now. Yeah. So we're all together. There's a large group of artists in Sydney at Birmingham Street Studios, and that was an amazing group of, say, 25 artists. But that came to an end, and the smaller group of us found a space to move into. So yeah, it's a long working relationship, but something I really cherish. Like it's been great actually, because all of us have our own connections to other artists. So it's never just the three of us. It's always a very active space where we'll have visiting friends and people in the arts coming. We have lunch here every day at 12 o'clock, and that's it's something we've been doing always, and it just means that everyone at least takes some time out of their work to get together and just have a moment to sort of talk about what we're doing. And
Yeah, which sounds really sort of idyllic and utopian, but actually I imagine is just critical when you're an artist and you're working on your own and you need to have that kind of moment to sort of come up and connect with someone and sound your ideas out with someone. I think that would be really a critical part of being able to work.
Yeah, I mean, everyone, I could never really do it at art school when they ask you to do that sort of critical feedback in a very constructive way. But I somehow feel like it's taken me 20 years to figure out a space where, and I get it now, but I was just too young at art school to I was terrified. And so now I think it's been great to kind of continue on that sort of art school vibe, but with the, picking and choosing it's been really good. Yeah.
Yeah. And so could you perhaps talk about some of the key ideas in your work that you explore?
I'm really interested in process, I think, and materiality are two sort of big strengths of my work. I think I've always enjoyed not really knowing the outcome of a work, and I really work well when I've sort of taken on a collaborative journey with some element of chance in the work. So that could be through working on different surfaces or with materials and that sort of exploration of playing around in that space. I think the reason I've always worked in color is one of the tools I use in my work. I think that's kind of what got me into painting and painting as a medium. But then after a while, I found that I was just found that quite limiting, just working within a gallery format, just painting shot, sort of that in a way. I wanted to sort of break free of that. And for me, that was the idea of what would it be like to touch a painting. So that sort of opened a whole door of possibilities, the idea of touch and painting, and not necessarily, I never felt comfortable talking about wanting to go into sculpture, because it's funny how words can sort of be, you don't see that as, I've always considered myself a painter. That's an idea. I'm interested in painting. I'm interested in what is a painting, how's a painting made, why is it important to paint? I mean, all these things come up through process, and also the answers over the years that just keep changing as well. So it's not like I answered it 20 years ago and it keeps changing depending on why I'm doing something and where I'm doing something and all those things. So they're the ideas that drive me. Yeah.
Yeah. And so what are you working on at the moment?
At the moment, I'm working on the Shoalhaven show that we were just talking about. So that's the works that it's just so great to be able to. I had similar work at Carriage Works a couple of years ago, which involved asking the audience member to come into a space and pick up a pair of scissors and engage, and they were able to kind of turn the work and then find an area of interest and cut out a shape and take that away with them. And it was just an exchange. I was also really, I had looked at the, obviously Yoko Ono's famous 1963, I think, or 60 work was always, I was interested in that exchange between the artist and the audience, and and all those sorts of ideas of trust and boundaries. So that work came out of sort of that research, and it was really exciting for me to see again that journey of the work, not understanding the outcome of it, and it turned basically. What I found, it was sort of like the painting became eaten away through the 5 days that it was being cut up, and it turned into a 3D sculptural work by the end of that piece. So anyway, getting around to your question, this exhibition I'm working at the moment is a new sort of version of that with the cuttings, but in a different context. I was interested in the work being cut up and taken away and interested in the voids, because I think the void, going back to the Shoalhaven and to the area where my house is, and just my biggest shock being in that landscape post fires, I think, were everything that was gone and taken away from that. All the new perspectives, being able to see the horizon, like the water I'd never been able to see. Had all been sort of eaten away. And so it just brought me back to that experience of my painting and the cutting and the taking away. But there's this sort of duality of this, there's a beauty in that as well, which is really a strange sensation where you're going back to a very damaged land, but there's this strange allure in standing there and seeing things in a completely different way. Does that make sense? I don't know.
Yes. No, absolutely. Yeah. And in fact, it's interesting because that commission in response to the fires, because most people, just as a piece of background, most people will assume that this exhibition about extreme weather came about after the fires, but actually this exhibition was in development 10 months before. It's just a sort of awful coincidence that this happened. But so after the fires, we decided, well, we need to do a work that is directly responding to what's just happened. And that was when we did the call for the EOIs, and your work responded. And it may not be what people expect a work in response to the bushfires to be, but it is absolutely the most, it's just the perfect work for a community that have experienced this trauma, to have this very soft, very luscious, very tactile, connected work that is both, will be a sort of private experience, but also a shared community experience. And I think that, yes, it just was an absolute standout for us when we were looking at all of the ideas. So I think it's a really nice way, as you say, it's not completely different to works that you've done in the past, but it's recontextualized in a way that carries a different meaning, and I think will resonate with that community. So
yeah,
very excited.
Privilege to have a work and do something experimental and explorative in the area that was so affected, and also because I have this connection to it, and also because of working with the community in post fires, against the development that's happening there. So it's amazing how things all come together. Like there was no grand plan for a bit of activism and art making and community to all, but it is a really, it just felt so right. And I mean, I don't really apply for that many things just because I'm so time poor with trying to get deadlines for shows. But that show, I think even the title is, as I keep telling you, Wonder and Dread. It's just wrong. I couldn't not put something in. So yeah.
Well, thank you. I'm so glad that you did. Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, it's nearly 15 minutes. So I like to round out these conversations with the question of why you think art matters.
Being up on this one. I was trying to think of look, it's art. It has been the only thing I've wanted to do in, it's a big question because it's all I'm obsessed about and think about and want to spend my time in. But I think it creates a space for the imagination. It doesn't have to be practical or functional. I think art matters because it allows this. I think there is something incredibly nurturing about making something, being the artist as well as looking at the art, but being sort of sitting there and putting something together without any rules, without any sort of you're allowed, and that freedom is intoxicating. I just can't, like that, and nothing else would give me that sort of sense of incredible sense of self. Maybe it's not even happiness or sadness, it's just a really it almost is like feeding yourself and creating that space to make it. So don't know, there's so much in that question, but you know what, it's another thing, it just keeps changing as well. I think for recently, art has mattered because it's been a vehicle to communicate ideas about the environment for us, as a group of people wanting to get the government's attention, and we haven't been able to kind of get together in numbers because of COVID. So art was really important to get a message across in some ways. But yeah, so.
Yes, no, and I wish we had a little bit more time because the weekend that you hosted down at Manana with a number of artists and the effect that had, and actually this piece of land, one of the only patches of land that wasn't devastated, that was then slated to be raised and developed. It's not completely done, but you've made massive inroads in actually protecting that piece of land.
Yeah, we're nearly there. It's yet to seal the deal and get the state government to put the money behind what they said. But if it does happen, a lot of people have worked really hard for that. And I think with all this other stuff going on, it's great to even have a small win to just give you energy for the next project. Yeah. So fingers crossed.
Yeah. That's why art matters. Okay, so just to round off, where can people see your work or buy your work or connect with you at this time?
I have my gallery, Jan Murphy Gallery, is where I have work coming up for the end of the year in a show, as well as, and then I have a couple of solo shows early next year with Jan Murphy Gallery and at Suma Gallery in New Zealand, which I'm excited that even if I can't travel, maybe the work can. So yeah, so that's where I'm probably the best place to see my work.
Yeah. Brilliant. And this interview, along with all the Outbreak videos, will be on the SODA Instagram TV. It will also wing its way to the website in time. Lara, thank you so much for joining me. It was so good to talk to you. And I'm looking forward to seeing the Wonder and Dread project as it comes to life.
Thanks so much. Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.